Today we are taking this pile of PC components and actually putting them together to build a new rig. What's up, s'mores? I'm Shannon Morse. Welcome back to the PC build series. In the last episode, we got our whole workspace ready, organized our tools, and we made sure that we were not about to build a very expensive computer on top of a carpet made of static electricity, which is really bad around here in Colorado where it's very, very dry. We have a dry climate. This video is the one you have been waiting for. We are finally installing our first components onto the motherboard, including the CPU, the RAM, and our NVMe SSDs. Now, if you're building along with me and you're nervous, you don't have to be. A lot of people think that installing a CPU is gonna be the hardest part of a PC build, and really once you've done it once, each one is gonna be pretty similar. Just taking your time and not rushing yourself will give you a perfect placement. For me, this is somewhere around like build 15 of my lifetime, and I tend to do a new one every few years. This one is going to replace my 6-year-old build from late 2019 that I did in collaboration with NVIDIA GeForce Garage when I was a show host for them. I think you can still find that video on their channel too. It was a Sailor Moon build. It was pretty fun. Now this year I have 2 brand partners for this build, ASUS and Kingston. So you will see components from these 2 manufacturers throughout the build. Now it goes without saying, or maybe I should say it, components are very pricey right now. Thanks a lot, AI. But you can use this playlist of videos as a general overview and a tutorial, whether you are upgrading your current parts or you are starting straight from scratch. So let's go ahead and get started. Now the first part that you will see here is the ASUS ROG STRIX X870A gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. The first thing that I am doing is unboxing the motherboard and its components. In the box, we have a Wi-Fi 7 antenna with connectors that click into place. No need to twist to tighten. I absolutely love that. There's also some stickers and the manual, and underneath the motherboard we also have 2 SATA cables, there's zip ties, rubber supports for M.2 drives, and an M.2 Q slide to mount smaller drives. There's also a spare M.2 latching post, so you can kind of customize your motherboard needs depending on how big your storage drives are going to be. So taking a look at the motherboard, we have an all-white PCB. It's really, really pretty, and it's awful heavy. It's probably the heaviest motherboard that I have used. On the front are heatsink shields. These are quite simple to remove with these few screws, so you can see underneath those shields. They put Morse code on here. And under this heat shield, there are M.2 slots. There's 3 of them, and there's one more right above where the GPU will go. Now that one also has a quick release heatsink. It's super easy to remove as well. All of them support 2280 type NVMe's, which are the type of SSDs that we are using in this build. And then slot 2, which is the topmost slot under that giant heatsink shield, supports 22110 type NVMe's. Now it's really important to check your motherboard manufacturer's storage information because some slots will support different speeds, or they may share bandwidth with another slot. For example, here's the specific information for my own motherboard. My cat is messing with my microphone. I get that you're bored and you probably want food, but I gotta record right now, okay? There's also PCIe. There's PCIe 5.0 x 16. That's the topmost slot. Your GPU should go here. The other one is way at the bottom. This one is PCIe 4.0 x 16. Now at the top are dual 8-pin power connectors for the CPU, 4 DDR5 DIMM slots for your RAM, and the manual says where to put them if you only have 2 RAM instead of 4. There are 2 SATA 6 gig ports, but that's a little bit slow, so chances are I'm not going to even use them. Then we have the fans, and there are 3 ports on the top, right above the RAM for the CPU fan, the CPU optional, and an AIO pump. And then there are 5 ports at the bottom of the board as well for fans. Now the 2 white headers at the bottom in between all of those fan headers are for ARGB, and there's one above the RAM as well, so you have plenty of places to put things that light up. There are tons of USB ports on this motherboard. For example, there's 12 on the rear, 9 on the front. There's 2 USB 2.0 headers at the bottom. Those are the bigger pins. There's 2 5 gig slots on the right side near the bottom of the RAM. And there's also one 20 gig slot just above those. The I/O shield is already pre-installed, and I love that. And it has a display port, CMOS and BIOS flashing switches. There's HDMI, 2.5 gig Ethernet port. There's 5 10 gig USB-A ports, 2 40 gig USB-C ports, and there's also one 10 gig 30 watt power delivery USB-C port. There's also 4 5 gig USB-A ports, there's a Wi-Fi port, audio, and optical. So now you know what goes where. Next, we are going to place the motherboard on top of its anti-static bag and put that on top of the motherboard box. This just gives us a really nice stable work surface, and it also protects the underside of the board while we are working. What? Oh. So you can think of this as the central hub for the entire build. Every single major component that we are installing today connects directly to the motherboard. So here, take a moment to familiarize yourself with your new motherboard, since yours is probably going to be a little bit different than mine. Since you will likely have a different one than me, just check where all of your pin headers are, look at where your storage is going to go, where the RAM will go, where the CPU will go, and read the manual that came with your motherboard, or check for it online if one didn't come in the box, and see if there's anything unique about your board. Now, before we install the CPU, if you are finding this video helpful, a subscribe would mean so much to me. Subscribing is a very simple way of showing me which videos you find helpful and valuable, and it tells me which direction I should take my channel in. Do you like PC builds? I would love to do more of these on the channel. Big Patreon shout out as well to Mitchell Y and Mark D. You can join them and support my channel by going over to patreon.com/ShannonMorse for perks like early video access, and I have a private Discord. As usual, all the videos on my channel are free to watch, and I thank my YouTube members and my patrons for making that possible. Now let's install that CPU. Okay, so we are going to get started with the brain of the system. This is the AMD Ryzen 9 9950X. For this build, I wanted something that could handle heavy video editing, content creation, multitasking, and basically anything that I decide to throw at it. So before we install it, there are 2 really important things to remember. Number 1, do not touch the contacts on the bottom. Same goes with the pins on the motherboard where the CPU will sit. Don't touch them at all. I know curiosity is a thing, but just don't touch them. These pins magically connect with the CPU, and they let that nervous system of the motherboard and the brain of the CPU talk to each other. If either piece is not perfectly aligned with the other, you end up getting wonky issues and it may not work right. Number 2, never ever force the CPU into the socket. If something feels a little wrong, just stop and check the alignment before you set it into place. So to open the AM5 socket, first press down on that little retention arm and move it over to the side, and then lift the retention arm and open the frame. This cover does have a triangle on it. See that little triangle? Now look for the small gold triangle on one corner of the CPU. If you remove the cover that's covering the current socket, you will also find a matching little triangle marker on the motherboard socket. Now there's another matching feature between the CPU and the socket. It's a pair of notches. There's a notch on the top and a notch on the bottom of the socket and the CPU. These will also line up perfectly like a little puzzle piece, and they will signify whether you have got your CPU installed the right way. So line those up, and then once aligned, gently, very gently, just lower the CPU straight into the socket. Use gravity for your support. You don't gotta wiggle it around or apply pressure. Just set it there. And if it doesn't drop into place naturally, it's probably not perfectly aligned, so pick it up straight, very gently, and then just try again. Once it is seated, lower the retention frame and lock that arm back down. Now this is going to sit very tightly together. You will notice that you have to apply quite a bit of pressure on that arm, so don't feel afraid to apply some pressure on that arm to get it closed. But once it's in place, remove the plastic cover that kind of pops off, and that's it. Congratulations! buttons, that is pretty much the most intimidating part of the build, and it's already done. Now, back in my day, CPUs were a whole lot harder to install and a lot easier to screw up, so consider yourself very lucky if this is your first time building a PC. Next up, we have the memory. Now, for this build, I am using 128 gigabytes of Kingston Fury Beast RGB DDR5 memory. That is 4 sticks total, giving us plenty of memory for editing, content creation, virtual machines, and way too many browser tabs open. So what does RAM actually do? You can think of RAM as your computer's short-term memory. Storage remembers things permanently, RAM remembers things that you are actively using. The more RAM you have, the more things your computer can keep available at once, kind of like multitasking. RAM is incredibly important for video and photo editing, as it makes the entire process a lot quicker with less buffering and lagging issues. It also helps if your browser is eating up a lot of memory and you have 100 tabs open. The more RAM you have, the better it's going to operate. To install the memory, open the retention clips on each slot on the motherboard, line up the notch on the RAM module with the key in the slot. Do you see that teeny tiny little silver sliver in the center of the slots for the RAM, and there's 4 of them? That is the little notch that I'm talking about. So that notch is a little bit offset, it's not right in the middle, so it only fits the RAM one way. Once aligned, press firmly, super firmly until the module clicks into place. It does take some force again. A lot of people stop way too soon because they're afraid they're gonna break something, but RAM, you gotta shove it in there pretty hard. Just make sure you're applying even pressure straight down. Don't try to apply pressure from one end and then the other end. Try to hit it with both thumbs at the same time, at the top and the bottom, and just push it down as hard as you can, and eventually you will hear that clip click into place. And then you just repeat the process for all 4 modules. You'll hear that very satisfying click when it's all the way in. This motherboard actually has an LED that will light up if there's an issue too. So if you have a stick of RAM that is not set all the way in, it will be way more noticeable when you boot up. Okay, so now we have 128 gigs installed. It's important to check your motherboard manual to see where you should be putting your RAM, especially if you only have 2 sticks instead of 4. And if you do have 4, you may need to fine-tune your RAM in your BIOS later in order for your PC to take full advantage of the memory available. We'll talk more about that later after the first boot. But now we need to install our storage. So this is where things like video games and photography and videos and home movies and music, everything that you store will go on the storage, unless you have a NAS like I do, and then you just put your video games locally. So we're gonna install the storage. This build has 3 NVMe SSDs, although apparently I can have up to 4, plus I can do solid state drives or hard disk drives in a separate SATA drive. So I have 1 Kingston NV3 PCIe Gen 4 drive, and I also have 2 Kingston Fury Renegade G5 PCIe Gen 5 drives. These little sticks are incredibly impressive when you think about it. I mean, years ago we were installing mechanical rotating hard drives with spinning disks. We still use those in our network attached storages to this day, but for daily PCs like today, these tiny drives can transfer data at speeds that would have sounded absolutely absurd back then. I'm so impressed with NVMEs. They are so cool. Now this board includes heat sinks that cover the slots, so we are removing those first if they haven't been removed already. Once exposed, slide that SSD into the connector at an angle. You will feel it seat into the slot and you will need to push it in there. Then gently press it down and secure it using the motherboard's retention mechanism. This motherboard, again, it is so cool. There are no screws required. It just clicks into place. It's another little satisfying click. Now we're gonna repeat that process for each drive, and I have to say this is the easiest storage drive installation that I have ever done. It is so simple. Now in my case, all 3 of my NVMEs, my M.2 NVMEs, these solid state drives are all single layer drives. They don't have all the components printed on 2 sides of the PCB. They only have all the components kind of printed and standing up from one side of the PCB. So I'm also using these little M.2 rubber supports that came with the motherboard as a little buffer, as a little stand that I stick underneath it. So those are what those little rubber things are that you see me putting on here. Now, pro tip, there's also a label on each of these drives. Don't remove it, as that protects important parts of the M.2 drive. Also, it might void your warranty. Also, there is a thermal compound on the heat sinks. As an example, you can see the thermal compounds right here, here, and here. Before you reinstall the heat sinks or the shields, make sure to remove the tape which is covering those compounds so they can distribute heat evenly. One thing to note here, I am placing my operating system and my primary applications on one of those faster drives, while the additional drives are going to handle things like projects, media files, and other workloads. We're going to cover storage organization later on in the series when we install the operating system. Okay, so at this point, let's go ahead and take a look at what we accomplished today. The motherboard now has the CPU installed, all 4 RAM modules are installed, all 3 SSDs are installed. I think that's a good checkpoint because we've completed most of the motherboard assembly before it ever goes into the case, so good job. Working outside the case does give you a lot more room, better visibility, and fewer opportunities to accidentally drop a screwdriver or a screw somewhere that you don't want it. Ask me how I know. There's been multiple times that I've installed motherboards in the case and then dropped a screw underneath the motherboard. And back in my day, the back panel of those cases did not come off, so your screw was just like banging around behind a motherboard somewhere. Now in the next video, we're gonna start to tackle this beastie, which is the liquid cooler, as well as installing the motherboard in the case. I am so excited. This is the Republic of Gamers Ryujin 3 ARGB Extreme. We're gonna talk about thermal paste, radiator placement, airflow, and how to keep a 16-core CPU from turning into a little teeny tiny space heater. So if you're building along with me, let me know in the comments what part of the build has made you the most nervous so far, if anything has, and if this video helped you feel a little bit more confident. That's my goal here. I hope that it helps. Make sure to hit subscribe and stick around for the next episode. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.